You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. Hey my rebel friends. Okay, this week we're talking about how to slow your mind down. And if you're anything like me, this would have been a really helpful thing for me to have known at a much deeper level earlier in my life. And we live in a world where things keep speeding up. Like everywhere you look, there is something that's trying to grab hold of your attention. And yeah, I want this to be practical because I think very often some of the stuff out there in spirituality, it can seem a bit kind of waffly and a bit, I don't know, it just doesn't kind of get to the heart of it. And I think this really does. I think this is something that is ruthlessly practical, actually. So the fact of the matter, as many of you will have realized, is that we can't control our thinking, right? Thinking is going to pop into our head like popcorn. Things are just going to kind of come in. And, you know, even that voice in our head that says, well, I can control my thinking. I can think about this and I can think about that. It's like, where did that come from? Did we make that thought appear and pop up? Or is that just appearing in consciousness? So when we kind of inspect, when we kind of go for the search, when we go and have a look around, we uncover this fact that thinking just appears. And so it's not at that level, right, that we're talking about here. We're not trying to quiet the mind at that level. We kind of have to go before and beyond that, or look in a different direction altogether in order to find this quieting, this slowing down in the mind. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you focus, if consciousness looks towards a story or a bundle of thoughts or an idea or whatever it is that's rolling around in our head, there's a speed to that, right? There is a speed to the mind, and it's almost like that's the only place where we can live faster than the speed of life, right? So if we're right here in this moment and we're just aware of our body and we just take a breath, we're obviously living at the speed of life. There's no other choice. But the mind and the overlay of the mind and the speed of thinking can make us feel like we're living 10% faster, 20%, 30%. The mind can try and do all sorts of stuff to try and get us somewhere other than here. And those overlays, they make us feel like we're going faster than life. And so we feel urgency, we can feel insecure, we can be, just not here. And I don't know, how I've come to think of it is that when if we're caught up and we're looking towards a story, we have one thought, but then that thought has kind of thought babies, right? It just starts having them, or we have one story and then all these other scenes start appearing and we're focusing in on it and we've kind of been caught up in that thought generated illusion in the sense it's not happening now. That mental movie that's running is of course the movie's running now, but the projection of the future or the past or whatever, there is no future or past. But it's been very helpful for me to see and realize how that works. It's in that focusing, that identification with the mind stream, that the mind stream grows thicker and thicker and we get more and more and more. And of course, when our head is full of thoughts, then we feel those. And so we feel stressed or we feel anxious or whatever it might be. So at its heart, this is about looking away from the mind stream. It's about realizing that there is another option. And there are some practical ways that I'll point to in a minute that we can do this. And then one key factor that I think is the kind of meta insight that is most helpful here. So one of them is that we can just put ourselves into a different state by looking away from the thinking, by kind of disidentifying when we realize that we've been caught up and looking in a different direction. Now that direction could take different forms. It might take the form of just looking towards the formless creative wisdom that's in you. Okay. And there will be different ways for many of you listening to this, you'll have your own way of doing that. I was on a call recently where the person sharing was talking about reflecting on the wisdom and intelligence behind life, reflecting on God, reflecting on source energy. It kind of doesn't matter what word that you have. It's going to be unique for you. But just to kind of reflect on that, to come into a different situation, to reflect on what we have going for us that is before and beyond the narration and the kind of speed of the mind. We can notice our body. So we can sort of take a look at our hands and just touch something and just notice that we're here. Have a look around the room. Fall back into that place before words that I talk about. We can notice our feet on the ground And really do it though. Maybe if we've noticed ourselves caught up, we've been really honed in and focused on that thought stream, that mind stream, take your shoes and socks off and just walk through the grass and notice what it's like to be present, to be grounded. So there's an infinite amount of somatic practices or breathwork stuff or things that we can do to kind of come into the body. And if you think about it, it pulls our attention from the head into the body, right? I think it's in The Power of Now that Eckhart Tolle says, when we have our attention on the inner body, and the inner body being the kind of felt sense of being here, the energy is pulled out of the mind stream and our thinking tends to slow down. So the first key thing to know is that we don't slow down the mind stream by trying to get in there and have a go at it and tell it needs to slow down. We do it by looking in a different direction, right? Now, the other thing that seems to be hugely important to me is coming to see the value in this. For many of us, we've been trained to value our stories and the future and the past, which of course is always in our mind. And we're slowly coming to realize again the absolute value of being fully present, of knowingly knowing that we're here, of really operating from this space. And it's kind of like a long-term direction to look in, because as we start to fall out of love with all of the crap that's been running around in our head, all of the bullshit stories and the thinking and the insecurity and all of that stuff that doesn't help us, that's bumbling around in our brain, as we fall out of that and come to realize the value in what's the liberation, the freedom of being here in this, to see the value of this moment. Because this is the space where wisdom resides. The intellect in the mind stream is wonderful, and it would be a great thing to turn on and off as we need it, or to look in that direction when we need it. But when it's running the ship, steering the ship, whatever it's doing, that is not helpful for us long term, right? There's the famous phrase that it's a great servant and a terrible master, the mind, and that absolutely looks true to me. And so this is very much about genuinely seeing the value in this. And the mind might say to you, yeah, but it's much more rock and roll up here, it's cooler up here, like it's all flashing lights and movies and all Hollywood up here in your head. But actually it's much more powerful, simple, ordinary and beautiful here, right now. This, as you. And it's not until we come to see that, it's not until we actually come to fall in love with this, fall in love with being, the moment, the present moment, I think, that we'll naturally start to see that kind of habitual tendency to look towards the mind stream start to fade away. So yeah, I guess in all sorts of different ways, it's about coming to value this different direction, who you are, your true identity, hanging out from that space, living from that space, and pulling that energy away from the mind stream, not by fighting with the mind and trying to take it on at the same level, but by truly looking in a different direction and coming home to the truth of you. All right, team, I hope you have a really, really beautiful day, week, all that stuff. Thanks for being here with me. I'll see you soon.